Welcome into another edition of Dolphins Today. Hey, when you're 3-0 and at the top of the AFC, it's never too early to start discussing some potential trade rumors for the Dolphins to become even better. There's a couple of names out there, rumors swirling, and we're going to dive into it and discuss on this edition of Dolphins Today. Hey, it wasn't that long ago when the Dolphins were mopping the floor with the Denver Broncos en route to a historic 70-20 win. Now, I'm not trying to live in the past, but that was a momentous win for the Dolphins in a lot of ways, but probably equally humiliating for the Denver Broncos, for Sean Payton. And at 0-3, you got to believe that perhaps the Broncos are very close to being all in on the sell, a full garage sale. They've got a couple of assets, but things are not working in Denver, which begs the question, is Patrick Surtain a guy that the Broncos could be willing to move in order for a big return? Now, again, the Dolphins boat raced the Broncos 70-20 in week 3, and that means that the Broncos could be a team that's looking to make a move. If Denver talks continue to heat up, if you will, fans are becoming increasingly interested in the idea of trading for Patrick Surtain. Also, let's not forget Patrick Surtain's father played for the Miami Dolphins. He had this to say on Twitter after that 70-20 embarrassing loss in regards to his son playing for a bad team, saying, "Toiling in the soil, SMH, shaking my head, you deserve better," referring to Pat Surtain deserving better. And I ask the question, is he a guy that the Dolphins could bring in? Now, fortunately, we have some historic trades to look back on involving a member that is already a part of the Dolphins organization with Jalen Ramsey. Now, this was the trade that sent Jalen Ramsey to the Rams when they were in Super Bowl contention mode and wanting to make that move. So just for looking back historically of what it might take to bring a guy like Pat Surtain to Miami, the Jaguars received a first-round pick, another 2021 first-round pick, and a fourth-round pick in order to send Jalen Ramsey to the Los Angeles Rams. Now, I don't necessarily think Surtain will take that type of a deal, that big of a deal, and I don't know if the Dolphins could be willing to offer that much, but just for historical perspective, we could be looking at quite the asking price for Patrick Surtain, because when you take a look at his stats over the course of his 36-game career, he was a first-round draft pick out of Alabama. Really impressive numbers with the 6 interceptions, 27 pass breakups, and he can still get it done in the backfield with 3 tackles for loss and 128 tackles overall. He is a guy that, again, will really change the dynamics of the secondary for the Miami Dolphins if they decide to make the move for him. Look at these coverage stats. Really, really impressive over the course of his career. And again, he's a guy that makes an immediate impact, but because of that, you're going to have to pony up quite the appealing trade proposal in order for the Broncos to be willing to ship him to Miami. So I ask you, should the Dolphins trade for Patrick Surtain? It's our pinned comment today. So if the YouTube ad hits you, just get down in the comments and let me know. Type T for trade or P for pass. I think this one makes a lot of sense. I really do. Now, there's some history here as well. The Dolphins defensive back coach Sam Madison, he was a teammate of Pat Surtain's father back when they both played for the Dolphins. And we know Jalen Ramsey is injured and won't be back, targeting somewhere in December. So there's a lot of reasons why this makes sense. Lastly, Xavier Howard's played really well. You got to give him a lot of credit, but he's also 30 years old, and that's not a knock on him. It's just alluding to the fact that he might not be the long-term answer. So, again, I ask you in the comments, do you think it makes sense for the Dolphins to make a blockbuster deal for Pat Surtain? I say yes. I think he's a guy that could make an immediate impact and really bolster Vic Fangio's defense. And when you combine him with Kader Kohou, Xavier Howard, you get Jalen Ramsey back in the mix. That's a secondary that packs a punch. Now, that's not the only trade rumor going around, because recall back to the preseason, it wasn't that long ago, when the Indianapolis Colts were looking to ship Jonathan Taylor on to perhaps the Dolphins. We know the Green Bay Packers were in there trying to make a deal for him. Now fast forward a couple of weeks ahead where Jonathan Taylor is healthy enough to resume those types of trade talks. Jonathan Taylor being back on the trade block really makes it seem like the Colts are ready to make that move. But before we go any further, I want to thank PrizePicks as a proud sponsor of today's show. I love PrizePicks. They are doing amazing things that I want to tell you all about. PrizePicks is easily the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's also super easy to use. That's why I really like it. And the app, it's awesome. It's super simple, very user-friendly, great interface. I absolutely love it. And ultimately, it's easy to win big. How easy? Well, I'm so glad you asked. You just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projected stat total, and you place your entry. It's that easy. I do it all the time with the Dolphins, and I've been picking more, a lot more than I've been picking less. I've got my picks all ready to go for this weekend's game against the Buffalo Bills. And I know it's a tall ask, but Tyreek Hill can do it. 94.5 yards receiving. I'm taking more for Tyreek Hill. And Tua Tagovailoa, you know he's the favorite to win the MVP. He's the AFC Player of the Month. So, of course, I'm picking more on his projected pass yards as well, 276.5. So give me more for Tyreek Hill and more for Tua Tagovailoa. That's how easy it is to use PrizePicks. It's super fun as well. You can win big, and I use it all the time. So forget those spreadsheets. It's all about beating the projections. So don't wait. Set up your PrizePick account today. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Let me give it to you again. It'll also be in the description. It's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to 100 buckaroos. All right, so we started talking a little bit about the possibility of trading for Jonathan Taylor because we're seeing it all over that fun app, the Twittersphere, X, whatever you want to call it. But Colts running back Jonathan Taylor, the trade talks are likely to resume, and one account saying they're likely to resume with the Dolphins. And there's a lot to be said about that because the Dolphins were among the favorites in the preseason where you heard those rumors really heating up around Jonathan Taylor. And reminder what Adam Schefter said when Indianapolis and Green Bay had initial discussions about a potential Jonathan Taylor trade. The Colts asked the Packers for second-year wide receiver Christian Watson per league sources. Also important to note that there were rumors that the Colts asked for Jalen Waddle, which is obviously not going to happen, and in no way, shape, or form would that be a deal worth doing for Chris Grier and the Dolphins organization, which is obviously why, if that was true, he nipped it right away. So that gives you an idea of the potential of the Dolphins trading for Jonathan Taylor and what it might take. And reminder, if and when any of these deals happen, we'll have you covered. That's why you subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at Jake_Rietma. I'm always tweeting about the Dolphins, and that helps you stay up to date on everything regarding the trade market or whatever else might be going on with the Miami Dolphins. And it's simple for me. The idea of trading for Jonathan Taylor just doesn't really resonate a lot with me. But I got to ask you, do you want to make that trade for Jonathan Taylor? Obviously, the Dolphins were involved with trade talks with the Colts in the preseason. So let me know in the comments, do you want to see the Dolphins make a deal for Taylor? Type Y for yes or N for no. I started to get into why I don't think this is a good deal for the Dolphins to pursue, but it's worth reiterating the fact that this running back room already for the Miami Dolphins is extremely talented. I think in the first 3 weeks of play, we've seen how talented they are. This Miami Dolphins running back room is in a good spot. So, of the two potential trades we've discussed, I like the idea of making a blockbuster deal for Surtain as opposed to the deal for Jonathan Taylor. So, even though Jonathan Taylor and the trade talks are resuming, according to Ian Rappaport, I just don't think now is the time, even though the Dolphins had talks with the Colts earlier this year in the preseason. And the Colts, I do think Jonathan Taylor is going to be moved because if you look at their stat production and where they're at right now, they're 2-1 to begin the season, and Zach Moss is shouldering the load of that running back. He's in the top 10 in rushing yards and rushing attempts so far through 3 games. So I do think Jonathan Taylor is going to be moved at some point, but for me, I'm good on this one with the Dolphins. They don't need to make that kind of blockbuster deal to bring in Jonathan Taylor because it's one of those things that you look at what you have, and I just don't think the Dolphins need to mortgage the future, especially at a position in which you look at the production. I know it's only 1 game, but those numbers are staggering of what DeVon Achane and Raheem Mostart put up just last week against the Broncos. They've been doing it all season long. Again, only a 3-game sample size, but the Dolphins lead the NFL in rushing, and Raheem Mostart and DeVon Achane have proven they can be involved in the passing game. So obviously, Jonathan Taylor, a guy that brings a wealth of talent, but look at that production from 1 game alone. DeVon Achane, your rookie player of the week, 203 yards rushing, and combined, they had 8 total touchdowns. Yes, it's probably an outlier, but it proves the fact that this running back room is already special. You're going to get Jeff Wilson Jr. off of IR as well. Savon Ahmed, another guy that can tote the rock. And all that to say that this Dolphins running back is already very, very special. So I'm good on that one. But if the Dolphins do make any kind of blockbuster trade, if you're subscribed to Dolphins Today, you'll hear from us. You don't want to miss a thing because we're doing daily videos every day, especially as it relates to trade rumors and trade speculation. And if a deal is done, we're hopping on live because that's what we do here at Dolphins Today. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. It's always a pleasure to be on Dolphins Today. Appreciate your support of the show. Subscribe to Dolphins Today because that just helps us reach more Dolphins fans, helps us get more studio time at Chat Sports, and that's what it's all about, bringing Dolphins content to the airwaves. So thanks so much for tuning in. Dolphins versus Bills on Sunday. We're having a watch party. Subscribe to the channel. If you're one of the real ones, you know what the watch parties consist of. Real-time play-by-play analysis. We have a lot of fun as well. Super chats. We get crazy because that's what it's all about here on Dolphins Today. Can't wait for that watch party. We'll see you there. Have a wonderful evening, afternoon, morning, whatever. See ya.